We are jumping into day 2 of the letter J. Now it's time for us to take our letter and embellish it. Now we're not going to be embellishing with flourishes like we normally do. Instead, we're going to actually be embellishing within the letter. So I want us to take inspiration from some of the florally architecture that you see, or even just from a plant. We're going to be adding a few leaves and slight curls coming off of somewhere right around the midline of the letter. Now you might say, well, but you drew the midline and it's actually higher. But this is sort of about where, if you were going to be writing another letter beside, that would be the midline. So that's why it's right about here, because for any other letters, that would be where their midline would be. So if you were to continue on with this technique for a word, you would be able to embellish all of them. Now, we are going to start by bringing this line up and then drawing a slight curve coming off, like it's a little bit of a leaf curling off of that side. And let's do one slightly smaller on the inside as well. You don't want to do too much on the inside because you always want to maintain the overall legibility of the letter itself. Now, of course, a downstroke is always thick. So we're going to give these some dimension by thickening up this line. Take your leaf shape, give it a bit of space, and then draw that line continued down below until the J starts to curve back in on itself. And this is just a first sketch. So don't worry if you're saying, well, but I want a little bit more weight down here. We will be adding some. Now we have one curve here that's a little bit bigger, and then one curve here that's a little bit smaller. And I think it needs a little something more. Let's try adding a tinier curve down in here to make it look a bit more natural, and having 3 in a grouping is always visually more pleasing. So we'll just put a little curve down here, and then again, bring that line back onto the main body area of the J. Now we can start to add a bit of weight to lower down on the J, because of course we don't ever want to have just a hairline. We want to build it up a little bit. I kind of feel like it might be nice to even have something coming off this section, and you can decide if you would like that there or not, because remember, you want to keep in mind legibility and also your personal preference. I kind of like the idea of making it look like there are actually proper leaves and then sort of this floral element growing out of the base of those leaves. Almost like this is a plant. These are perhaps the stamen of the flower, and then we have the beautiful petals coming out of the top. Now, when you're visualizing this, you're going to want to think about maybe adding a little bit of weight to the front of these letters, because you have all of this heaviness now that's happening over here. And you might want to balance that out by just thickening up these downstrokes ever so slightly, and also this main one, the flower petal, that is coming right out of the middle. So there we have sketched our letter, and I do want to point out one thing. I'm not in love with how this looks like it's sort of leading to nowhere. So for a J, another option would be to curl it back down. And that is something that you might want to think about as you sketch out your floral inspired J. That's all we're going to be doing today. So sketch out your letter the way that it pleases you, and then put this aside for day 3, when we're going to add a shadow to really make this pop and solidify it.